We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The sound of concrete snapping overhead nearly ended Andrew Callahan's life. After 25 years as a structural engineer, he had faced risks before, but never a collapse that sent jagged blocks of cement tumbling inches from his head. When he stumbled out of the tunnel, caked in dust, the thought pounding in his skull wasn't survival. It was how fragile everything really was. That night, his modest suburban home should have felt like a refuge. Through the kitchen window, he saw his wife, Lauren, moving with her usual grace, auburn hair pinned back as she stirred a simmering pot on the stove. Even after 20 years, she still had a presence that softened his rough edges. "There's our hero," she said warmly when he walked in, her voice carrying the same strength she showed in the hospital where she worked long shifts. But Andrew's relief from the day's chaos didn't last. He confessed what happened in the tunnel and admitted how close he came to death. "It makes you think," he told her, "maybe we should finally take that trip to Costa Rica we always talked about." Lauren's smile faltered. For just a second, her expression hardened into something distant. Then, just as quickly, she smoothed it away. "We can't afford that right now," she said, her tone sharper than he expected. "Not with Emily settling in her new job and Chloe's tuition still hanging over us." The words cut deeper than intended. Andrew had built his life on stability, for his daughters, for Lauren, for himself. But that night, as Lauren disappeared into her office with paperwork, Andrew sat restless in the living room, flipping channels without focus. The near-death moment haunted him. When he finally went upstairs, something else rattled him more than falling concrete. On the nightstand, next to Lauren's regular phone, another device buzzed quietly. He froze. He'd never been suspicious before, never doubted her late shifts or endless calls. But curiosity got the better of him. One message lit up the screen. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Marriott, room 508. Andrew's blood ran cold. His wife of 20 years had a second phone. She was meeting someone, and the easy laughter she once shared with him was being spent somewhere else, with someone else. He dug deeper, finding a receipt in her purse, proof of nights spent at the Marriott. His hands shook, but his mind, sharpened by years of engineering, shifted into problem-solving mode. Collect data, verify evidence, draw conclusions. And the conclusion hit him like another falling slab of concrete. Lauren wasn't just drifting away from him. She was betraying him. And Andrew Callahan wasn't going to sit quietly and let it happen. Andrew sat in the dim glow of his office the next morning, hands clenched around a lukewarm cup of coffee. The vibration of that second phone still rang in his ears. 20 years of loyalty, stability, and late nights at work, traded for a hotel room and whispered messages to another man. Lauren moved around the kitchen, humming lightly as if nothing was wrong. Her smile was practiced, her routine flawless. But Andrew noticed the small things now. How she avoided his eyes, how her goodbye kiss landed not on his lips, but his cheek, how her car backed out of the driveway quicker than usual. The moment she left, Andrew dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Blake Investigations." A voice answered. "Tommy, it's me." "Andrew." There was a pause, then a low chuckle. "Callahan? Been a long time, buddy. What's going on?" Andrew hesitated. The words felt bitter in his mouth. "I think Lauren's cheating on me. I need proof." Silence. Then Tommy's tone shifted into the professional seriousness Andrew remembered from their college days. "Meet me tonight. Same old place. Murphy's Bar." And Andrew, "Don't do anything stupid before then." The hours crawled. Andrew buried himself in construction plans at work. But every time his pen hit the page, his mind replayed the text. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Marriott, room 508. By evening, he walked into Murphy's Bar, the weight of betrayal clinging to him like a second skin. Tommy was already there, leaning back in the booth, nursing a beer. His old friend had aged like the rest of them, lines around his eyes, grayer hair, but the sharpness in his gaze remained. "You look like hell," Tommy said. "I feel worse." Andrew ordered a whiskey neat. He slid his phone across the table, screen unlocked to show the messages. Tommy scanned them quickly, then raised his eyebrows. "She's not even careful. Marriott downtown. Same room, different nights." Andrew nodded. "I found a receipt in her purse. 3 nights ago, Tommy scribbled notes into a battered notebook. And the guy, Dr. Wesley Grant, orthopedic surgeon, works at our hospital. Tommy leaned back, muttering under his breath. Figures. I've heard his name before. Divorced 6 months ago. Bad reputation. And let me guess, he's the type that thinks charm can cover rot. Andrew's jaw tightened. I don't care about his charm. I care about the fact that my wife, the woman I built a life with, has been sneaking around like a teenager. Tommy's voice softened. You need evidence before you make any moves. Photos, logs, receipts. The works. Because if this goes to court, you want the truth in your corner. Andrew stared at the amber liquid in his glass. I don't just want the truth. I want her to know she didn't just betray me. She underestimated me. That night, when Lauren came home past midnight, Andrew lay awake, feigning sleep. She crept in smelling faintly of hotel soap. Not her usual floral perfume. Not the lavender lotion she always used before bed. Something cold, sterile, and foreign. His pulse pounded, but he stayed still, memorizing every detail. When her breathing finally deepened, he carefully slid out of bed, picked up the second phone from its charger, and scrolled. The messages shattered him more than any collapse could. Dinner was perfect. You made me feel alive again. Can't wait for our next night together. You're nothing like him. Andrew's boring. Predictable. You're thrilling, Wesley. His throat tightened. The words weren't just casual flattery. They were venom. His wife wasn't only sleeping with another man. She was mocking Andrew, belittling the very qualities he had thought made their marriage strong. Stability, dependability, safety. Then came the message that turned betrayal into something darker. Wesley, I think Andrew's suspects something. No way. He's clueless. Probably wouldn't notice if you disappear tomorrow. Not yet. I need to handle the money first. Everything's tied up in joint accounts. Andrew's stomach dropped. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to cut him out financially, too. He placed the phone back exactly where it had been and walked into the bathroom, staring at his reflection in the mirror. His eyes looked hollow, aged, as though years had passed in a single night. The man staring back at him wasn't the same one who had walked into that tunnel yesterday. That man had believed in trust, in family, in loyalty. The one looking back now was something else. Broken, yes, but also sharpened. His phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Tommy. Got some info. We'll talk tomorrow at lunch. Don't lose your cool tonight. Andrew whispered to himself, voice low and steady. She thinks I'm boring. She thinks I'm predictable. She has no idea what's coming. He turned off the light, stepped quietly back into the bedroom, and slid under the covers. Lauren shifted slightly, mumbling in her sleep. Andrew lay wide awake beside her, every nerve burning, already planning his next move. By noon the next day, Andrew sat across from Tommy in a quiet diner booth. The air smelled of bacon grease and burnt coffee, but the folder Tommy slid across the table snapped him fully awake. Take a look, Tommy said. Inside were photographs, Lauren and Dr. Wesley Grant walking into the Marriott, hand in hand, her laughter frozen mid-frame. More shots showed them leaving together, his arm brushing against hers, her face glowing with a joy Andrew hadn't seen directed at him in years. Receipts were stapled to the back. Room charges, dinners, wine. Every detail precise, undeniable. Andrew clenched his jaw, flipping through the evidence. It's worse than I thought. Tommy leaned forward, his voice low. And there's more. Grant's not just a womanizer. He's under investigation. Medicare billing fraud, falsified patient charts, kickbacks. If Lauren's been helping him, she's in deep. Andrew's chest tightened. Helping him how? Tommy tapped a page, showing access logs from the hospital system. She's been pulling files she's not authorized to. Signatures on documents that tie back to her. Andrew closed the folder slowly, forcing his voice to stay calm. So, she's not only betraying me, she's breaking the law. That's right, Tommy said carefully. If the feds move, she could be facing charges. The question is, what do you want to do? Andrew stared out the window at the parking lot. For 2 decades, he had been the quiet man, the reliable man, the one who fixed the house gutters and never missed a mortgage payment. But Lauren had mistaken reliability for weakness. She thought he would look away, stay silent, or simply fade into the background. Not this time. I want her lies exposed, Andrew said firmly. I want her to face consequences, not just for the affair, but for everything. Tommy studied him. That's not revenge you're talking about. That's justice. Andrew's eyes hardened. It's both. That evening, Andrew sat at the dinner table across from Lauren. She seemed oddly cheerful, stirring her pasta absent-mindedly while her phone rested nearby, screen lighting up every few minutes. She hit it quickly each time, but Andrew caught the way her lips curved in a secret smile. "How was your day?" she asked casually. "Productive," Andrew replied. His tone was steady, almost too calm. "We finalized plans for a big contract downtown. Could mean steady work for a few years." "That's good," she said, her voice distracted. Her fork clinked against the plate as she scrolled through her phone. Andrew leaned back, watching her. "Everything okay at the hospital?" Lauren froze for a split second, then forced a smile. "Just the usual. Meetings, patient charts, chaos. You know how it is." He nodded, but said nothing else. The silence stretched. For years, he had filled their dinners with stories from work, questions about the girls, small jokes to lighten her stress. Tonight, he let silence sit heavy, forcing her to shift uncomfortably in her chair. When she excused herself to catch up on paperwork, Andrew waited until she disappeared into her office. Then he went upstairs. The second phone buzzed again, and he unlocked it easily. The messages from Wesley were frantic. "They're looking into me. We need to talk. Tonight. Marriott, usual room." Lauren responded within seconds. "I'll be there. Don't worry, we'll figure it out." Andrew snapped screenshots of every message, forwarding them quietly to his email. His plan was coming together. The next morning, Andrew met with James Whitmore, his long-trusted attorney. The office smelled faintly of leather and old books, the weight of decades of legal battles lingering in the air. "I want to file for divorce," Andrew said plainly, sliding the folder of evidence across the polished desk. Whitmore adjusted his glasses and scanned through the photos and documents. His expression grew more serious with each page. "This is substantial. Infidelity, financial misconduct, potential fraud. If she's implicated in Grant's case, this shifts everything. Spousal support, division of assets, even custody arrangements if it comes to that." Andrew's voice was calm but firm. "I don't want revenge. I want protection. She's been planning a life with him, and I won't let her destroy me financially in the process." Whitmore nodded slowly. "We can move quickly. I'll draft the petition, freeze joint accounts, and file emergency motions. But Andrew, don't confront her directly. Let the system do its work." Andrew gave a measured nod. Understood. But deep inside, he was already planning something more. Not reckless, not violent. Something that would make Lauren face herself in a way she couldn't escape. That night, Lauren came home late again. Her excuse was smooth, something about covering an extra shift. She kissed Andrew lightly on the cheek, pretending nothing was wrong. But Andrew had already shifted into a new role. He wasn't just the husband she thought she could fool. He was the man building a trap around her lies, brick by brick. When she disappeared into her office, Andrew sat quietly in the living room, sipping a drink. The clock ticked loudly on the wall, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel powerless. He felt focused, because Lauren thought she was hiding a secret affair. But Andrew knew he was hiding something far bigger. He was hiding his revenge. Andrew didn't sleep that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind calculating every angle like he would when analyzing the stress points of a bridge. Only this time, the cracks weren't in concrete. They were in his marriage, and he was going to make sure they collapsed exactly where they needed to. By morning, Lauren was gone, leaving another excuse scribbled on the counter. "Late shift. Don't wait up." Andrew almost smiled. She was already tangled in her own web, and she didn't even realize how fast the walls were closing in. That afternoon, Andrew drove downtown to meet with the hospital's head of security. He laid everything on the table: photographs, messages, receipts, logs of unauthorized access to patient files. The man's face tightened as he flipped through the evidence. "Mr. Callahan, this is serious," the officer said. "If what you've brought is accurate, both Dr. Grant and your wife could be facing federal charges. We'll need to involve the FBI immediately." "Do it," Andrew replied coldly. "Tonight, they're meeting at the Marriott, room 508. You'll find them there." The officer looked at him carefully. "Are you sure you want to go down this road? This isn't just about divorce anymore. This could ruin her life. Andrew's jaw hardened. She ruined it first. Back home. He waited. The minutes dragged until Lauren finally appeared in the hallway, dressed carefully, but trying not to look obvious. Heading out again, he asked casually from the sofa. She stiffened, then smiled too quickly. Yeah, I need to check in on a patient's family. Complicated case. Might be late. Andrew kept his expression neutral. I'll see you when you get back. She grabbed her purse and left, the door clicking shut behind her. Andrew sat still for a moment, then picked up his phone. One call. One sentence. She just left. Marriott. Room 508. At the same time, his daughters were on their way over. He had called Emily and Chloe earlier, his voice steady but urgent. Come home tomorrow morning. I need to talk to you. It's important. By noon the next day, they were sitting in the living room, their faces pale with confusion. Andrew poured black coffee into mugs and set them down carefully, then unfolded the truth. The marriage you thought was solid. It wasn't. Your mother's been cheating on me. Not only that, she's been helping Grant commit fraud at the hospital. The FBI is involved now. Emily's face drained of color, her mug trembling in her hands. Chloe stared in disbelief. No, Dad, that can't be true. Mom wouldn't. Andrew slid the folder across the coffee table. Photos, receipts, screenshots. Evidence they couldn't ignore. Emily pressed a hand to her mouth. Chloe shook her head, whispering, This isn't real. Mom wouldn't do this to us. She already has, Andrew said, his tone steady. You both deserve to know before this hits the news. Chloe's voice cracked. So you're divorcing her? Andrew nodded. Yes. And I need you to understand, this wasn't my choice. She made it the moment she betrayed us. That evening, the call came in. Tommy's voice was calm but firm. They've got her or Andrew. FBI raided the Marriott room. Grant's in custody. Lauren too. It's over. Andrew exhaled slowly, the sound more relief than triumph. Good. Let her face what she chose. He hung up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun dipped low, streaks of gold fading into shadow. He thought of the years he had built a life on loyalty, the quiet nights, the sacrifices, all tossed aside for thrill and secrecy. But now the balance had shifted. Lauren's world was collapsing, caught in an affair, tangled in fraud, stripped of the family she thought she controlled. And Andrew, he was free. The following weeks were brutal in the headlines. Doctor and senior nurse charged in federal health care fraud scheme. News stations showed Grant and Lauren in handcuffs, their reputation shattered. Neighbors whispered, colleagues gossiped, and the daughters struggled to reconcile the image of the mother they loved with the woman in the mugshot. Andrew, meanwhile, moved with quiet precision. He finalized the divorce. He froze the accounts. He kept the house. Years of sacrifice had given him the patience to play the long game. And now that patience had paid off. One evening, as Emily sat at the kitchen table, tears staining her cheeks, she asked softly, Dad, do you hate her? Andrew thought for a long moment, then shook his head. No, hate would mean she still has power over me. What I feel is colder than that. I feel nothing. Chloe whispered, but what about us? We're still her daughters. You'll always be mine too, Andrew said gently. But you need to understand, your mother made her choices. And now we all live with the consequences. Months later, when the court handed down Lauren's sentence, 6 years in federal prison, Andrew didn't celebrate. He simply sat in his truck, staring at the courthouse steps, his hands resting calmly on the steering wheel. Revenge hadn't been loud. It hadn't been violent. It had been precise, measured, devastating. Lauren thought Andrew was boring, predictable, a man too safe to ever change the outcome of his own story. But she was wrong. He hadn't just survived betrayal. He had dismantled it, brick by brick, lie by lie, until nothing of her secret life remained. And when the dust finally settled, Andrew Callahan walked away, not broken, not defeated, but stronger, sharper, and absolutely free.